Sasha Banks and Naomi, who do they think they are? Coming in here saying people are unsafe. We're not going to work with you, Doudrop and Nikki ASH.
It wasn't them.
It wasn't them?
It wasn't them.
Who was it?
It was Becky and Asuka.
Becky and Asuka.
But also, I mean, we'll get into it. That's not what they were saying either.
Yeah, but it's outrageous what they're doing. I'm definitely taking WWE's statement at face value in this situation. Of course, Banks and Naomi walked out of Monday Night Raw as the show was going on, as it was on air. You described it, I don't want to trample over your joke, the Godzilla versus Kong.
Oh, this was an episode where I said it's a bit like Godzilla versus Kong. And when I say that, I mean King Kong versus Godzilla from 1963. It is a movie that is more interesting to talk about how it was made than the film itself. Freddy versus Jason's another example of it.
Is it only versus movies?
Tends to be.
Batman v Superman.
It's way more interesting to talk about the making of that movie than the actual film itself.
Most things are more interesting than the actual movie itself. So yes,
bowel cancer.
This is going to be an episode where we're mostly talking about the behind-the-scenes stuff because the episode of Raw was a bit missable.
Yeah,
I thought.
Cody cut a promo. Ali got beaten by Veer.
Mysterio's returned.
Yeah, the
number one
Mysterios
contender crowned.
Yeah.
Lacey Evans likes the military.
Yep. Is she a heel? Is she a babyface?
100% babyface.
Yep, I think so, but still does it in a heel manner. And
that's just her face.
And Riddle beat one of the Usos.
Yeah. Well, that's Raw.
It is Raw.
67%.
But this episode is brought to you by our friends at Surfshark VPN. It is the WrestleTalk Choice VPN service, and you can get it as well by clicking the link in the video description down below, and you can get not 40, not 50%, not 60%, not 70%, not even 80%.
More than 80%.
83% off.
Good God.
And 3 months extra free.
That's insane.
Yes, it is.
83% is a very decent episode of AEW in my ratings.
It really is, actually, yeah.
So that's like, what an offer.
It is indeed, yeah. And if you are one of our American viewers, which many of you are, and you think that the Peacock service is rubbish, because it is, get the proper WWE network by using your VPN to access the British or Canadian, because they're better than you as well, and get the proper version of the WWE network that actually works.
And also BBC iPlayer
Oh.
for all four.
All four. Taskmaster. Yeah. Derry Girls. Oh, come on now.
I don't get it.
You don't get it?
I don't find it funny.
What?
I've tried.
It's so good, man.
But Taskmaster
is a winner, though.
Let's get into this situation.
Indeed.
Do you want to take the lead on this?
I will do as well, because I have essentially broken this down into timeline order as best as I can.
I feel like we're doing a WrestleTalk Extra episode, and you're giving me all the reports.
I'm giving you all the reports
from the time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So if we kick things off with PW Insider, they were the first ones to report.
Very reputable.
Absolutely, yeah. That something had possibly gone awry. They wrote, the words making the rounds backstage of the taping is that Sasha Banks took issue with some of the planned creators of the original main event, a Raw six-pack challenge, to determine Bianca Belair's next challenger at Hell in a Cell. Banks had a meeting with Vince McMahon, and the belief among those that we've heard from is that when McMahon didn't choose to change the direction of the plans, Banks wouldn't back down on her issues and made the decision to leave the taping.
Wow. So six-pack challenge, that was announced at the start of the episode.
Wasn't advertised ahead of time. I think that is very crucial to point this out. That the six-pack challenge was not announced before the show. It was announced at the start of the show. And Banks and Naomi left before the show started.
Oh, I heard that they left in as the show had gone on air.
The way that most people write about the reports is that they left before the show had started. So I think that is crucial to remember that point.
Log that one.
We then had a thread on Twitter from a guy named Adidas Head, or Adidas Head, depending on which way you like to pronounce this thing.
The sports brand.
Yeah. I think most people are aware of the story anyway, but just to kind of give a bit of clarification on this, Raw started the show announcing there's going to be a six-pack challenge. It's going to be Sasha Banks, Naomi, Doudrop, Nikki ASH, Becky Lynch, and Asuka. The winner of that will go on to face Bianca Belair at Hell in a Cell for the Raw Women's Championship.
A lot of unsafe women in that match.
Hell of a lineup as well. Hell of a lineup.
Cruising for a bruising.
Then
going to get injured in that one.
A few segments later, Becky Lynch just says, Sasha Banks and Naomi have gone, and so we need to change the main event. And Adam Pearce says, it's now just going to be a one-on-one match between you and Asuka. And that was the main event. Asuka won that match. She is now the new #1 contender for this.
Great finish.
Great finish.
I actually really enjoyed the match.
Yeah,
I wish
really
it
good.
got longer.
Yes. Well, they had to give time so that Corey Graves can bury Banks and Naomi for walking out.
Of course, understandably.
Yes. And what I would say is probably a Vince McMahon fed line. He said, I've got the quote here.
She took her ball and went home.
Summarily and unprofessionally left the arena is how Corey Graves described Sasha Banks and Naomi.
Summarily.
Summarily and unprofessionally.
It sounds like a Christmas thing. Summarily.
Well, because I got the thumbnail with unprofessional, which is what they keep to.
Should have gone for summarily.
It's what everyone was saying about it. But I like the fact that they said, because it made me go, unprofessional. So anyway, Adidas Head on Twitter then posted up this thread that he was told he was given the okay to post. Now, before anyone was asking, like, well, who is this Adidas Head fellow? He is followed by Naomi. He's got like 400 odd followers or stuff, but one of them is Naomi.
So he seems like a friend, at least online.
That's what I would say, yeah. And the way that he was talking about this was that he was given this thread and was sort of like given the okay to post this. So I think we could probably say this comes from the Naomi side of things. It's also crucial to point out as well that this was posted before Sean had his report up and before WWE released their statements. So Adidas kind of framed it as like a put yourself in this position. So there's a lot of like you and sort of like put yourself in their shoes. So he wrote, you are told you'll be in the main event and you are happy. You are both told then that one of you will be going over and pinning the other. You have questions why that decision was made and how it helps you. You request a meeting with your boss to discuss it. Your boss takes the meeting and everything is actually going well. He understands your concerns. The meeting ends well and the match is told to be reconstructed. For some reason, producers get mad about it. You are told basically that you'll be carrying the belt, refers to the women's tag team titles. They want to use you both to help both women's champions get more over. So they would suggest they would do Bianca versus Naomi, Ronda versus Sasha. Neither of you will win the solo titles, and you won't get to defend your tag belts until Money in the Bank. You ask for another meeting with your boss, but this time you are being called spoiled. A producer walks away screaming. He comes back and tells you to fix your attitudes. You have another brief meeting amongst yourselves and decide to stand up for yourselves. You go to another boss and make it clear you just have concerns. You ask, why are we even in the match? Why aren't other women in the match? You ask why your titles have no stories for 2 months. Again, you're met with fix your attitude. So after one final meeting with yourselves and asking others, you make the ultimate decision as a team. And that was when he says, and they left. And they walked out. So in this person's version of events that he said was given to him, was given the all clear to post, they voiced their concerns about being in this main event. And, you know, Naomi was planned to win this thing. In his version, this Naomi was going to pin Banks. And it was going to be Naomi versus Bianca Belair at the pay-per-view, which is what Sean later reported as well, only it was Nikki ASH that was being taken the pin, not Sasha. And Sasha and Naomi's issues was not just about winning matches, it was more like, what is our direction? What are we actually doing with these women's tag team titles?
To make the singles champions look good, I think that was quite clear.
That was quite clear. Fix your attitude while you're at it.
That whole Twitter thread, by that point, why hasn't Naomi just done the sort of screenshot of an Apple Note tweet out of her own statement?
Because they haven't. Neither of them have actually said anything as of yet. Some people have pointed out that Sasha Banks unfollowed WWE and Vince McMahon, but apparently she did that days ago.
Oh.
So, like, that's nothing. But, you know.
That's still quite big.
I don't know. It's just unfollowing people on Twitter. Like,
your employer and the owner of the company a few days before this happened.
Yeah. Well,
that seems to me like something to take note of.
We'll get to the WrestleVotes tweet about that a bit later on. He also adds as well that when people were talking about, you know, people are asking him questions, do you think they'll get released? Do you think this could cause issues for them? He said,
they're sharpening these knives.
Sasha and Naomi were brought up in Fox meetings with WWE this week. Trust me when I say Fox will be on the line to WWE in the morning. Talking about like how Fox see Sasha and Naomi as a big deal because Sasha is a crossover star. She is starring in movies, or she's starring in TV shows. She's part of The Mandalorian. Hot Wings specifically asked to do a show with her. Kevin Hart, for his new TV project, specifically requested that Sasha Banks be part of it. He wanted her to be part of this. And WWE are in this position at the moment where they're talking about how they want more crossover and mainstream stars, so long as it's not Sasha Banks. Because
take Charlotte Flair.
That's exactly it. It's like, take Roman, take Charlotte, take the ones that we want you to make. Because when she was in Mandalorian, WWE never mentioned it, never brought it up.
Same with Batista when he was first Drax in Guardians of the Galaxy.
They want you to be a mainstream crossover star as long as they have made the decision you will be a crossover star.
You'll like John Cena, The Miz, Triple H.
Yeah. So I think it is quite mad. You know, people are asking, like, what would Sasha do if she did leave? Should she go to AEW? I think most people are like, I think she'll probably just go and do her acting gigs.
Yeah.
Because that's what she is clearly like to do. The last thing on Adidas said was, he has told us, anyway, being told to shut up and wrestle and, quote, fix your attitudes, I would have walked out too.
Yeah. It's hard to, it's like the position you put the rest of your co-workers in. Do you just do your job, which is the professional thing to do regardless of, these essentially creative disagreements? I think it's probably naive to think there was no shouting the other way in those meetings. And that is one side of the story. But
don't worry, we'll get to WWE Sunday.
Yeah, which is the other end. But I do think, there is an argument that they probably should have just done it and then had we're not doing this again though. And it's not on the hours before the show or whatever.
Because we haven't had anything like this. People would say Punk, but it's not really the Punk situation. Punk left, Punk walked. Same with Pac. Pac just walked out of an episode of Raw when he was supposed to be in that main event.
Do you remember those days?
Adam said this as well. He said, do you remember when the Cruiserweights were
the third hour of Raw?
They were the whole third hour. It was like watching a 2-hour episode of Raw and then an hour of 205 Live.
I loved it.
That was grand for a little while, wasn't it?
Yeah. The first thing that I thought of was when it was the European tour and Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn walked out.
Oh, yeah.
After they lost the match. They just walked out and they walked out the building.
Yeah. But for me, this is more comparable to Austin in 2002 when he was, they didn't know this, he was scheduled to face Brock Lesnar, not in a King of the Ring tournament match,
ridiculous.
A King of the Ring qualifying match. And this was the first time ever meeting between Steve Austin and Brock Lesnar. So the biggest star they have had for the last few years, the biggest star of the Attitude Era versus their hot new prospect in Brock Lesnar. And it was an unadvertised match on Raw. And Steve Austin said, I think we could probably actually make some money off of this match. Why don't we build to it at a pay-per-view? And Vince was like, no, just go out there and do the job. We want to put Brock over. So Steve Austin, as they put it on TV, took his ball and went home. And they had Jim Ross cut a promo on it, The Rock cut a promo about it, and they had people legit mention he has left this building and he's the bad guy in this situation and we're the good guys. He screwed you fans. That's what happened here with Corey Graves talking about how they, what was it again?
Summarily.
It's such a natural word that Corey Graves would say. We then got Fightful's first report about this from Sean Ross Sapp, which kind of confirms a lot of what Mike Johnson reported with PW Insider, but crucially what a lot of Adidas head had said as well, which is that those that we heard from at tonight's WWE Raw, tag team champion Sasha Banks wasn't satisfied with the creative associated with her plans for the evening. We're told that Sasha Banks had a meeting with Vince McMahon and voiced her displeasure about a situation and wouldn't budge on her stance. Vince McMahon was also said to be unwilling to budge. We haven't heard specifically that Naomi was involved, but that she and Banks left before the start of the show. It's worth noting that at the time the WWE Raw rundowns went out, there was no assigned producer or referee for the main event match. It was also highlighted in red, indicating a change could be happening. We're told that they were hastily produced segments to set up the change, and they were reflected in the rundowns that were handed out before the show. By the time that it was announced on WWE TV, word had made its way outside of the company, which had been the Mike Johnson reports.
So your sort of theory is here that WWE could have easily have gone ahead with the episode of Raw without saying this was the planned match, but they said it was the planned match just so they could bury Banks and Naomi on air.
Yes, and I think it then plays a huge part in the statement that they released. I think that is 100% by design. Because if
they're controlling the narrative.
That's what so many people have been like, look at them controlling their narrative. EC3 will be so proud of them with Braun there. But yeah, like I think quite by design, they announced at the start of the show there was going to be the 6-pack challenge and then changed it. Because if you knew that match was not going to happen, you didn't need to film segments with Becky Lynch and Asuka cutting promos about it. You could have just said, the main event of this show is Asuka versus Becky Lynch for the #1 contendership.
Big enough match to main event a show anyway.
Absolutely did. Which brings us to WWE side of the story.
I love this.
Because we do need to hear WWE side of the story. And this was also a statement that Sean made up at this point. He didn't ask for this statement. They just sent it to him.
This is so weird because WWE so rarely respond to stuff like this. When we've reached out to them in the past, we do not comment on rumors and speculation. That's the general blanket.
Sean always gets as well. Sean said on the Fightful Post show, I don't even get this when they release people. Like if I ask them about releasing, I don't get any confirmation. I will just get this though was sent to him without prompting, and it was sent to a few other journalists as well, and was sent out to every single wrestler under WWE contract through the internal WWE Wrestlers app that they have, which means Sasha Banks and Naomi would have also got this.
This feels like a more sort of emotional move by WWE. I don't think this is the sort of cooler heads prevailing strategy. I don't think there is some master plan. I just think they lashed out in this instance. But let's hear what they said.
When Sasha Banks and Naomi arrived at the arena this afternoon, they were informed of their participation in the main event of tonight's Monday Night Raw. During the broadcast, they walked into WWE Head of Talent Relations John Laurinaitis' offices with their suitcases in hand, placed the Tag Team Championship belt on his desk, and walked out. They claimed they weren't being respected enough as Tag Team Champions, and even though they had 8 hours to rehearse and construct their match, they claimed they were uncomfortable in the ring with 2 of their opponents, even though they'd had matches with those individuals in the past with no consequence. Monday Night Raw is a scripted live TV show whose characters are expected to perform the requirements of their contract. We regret we were unable to deliver, as advertised, tonight's main event. As you and I well know, they hate changing main events and not putting forward matches that they've advertised.
And they've had such a good track record as of late where they've definitely delivered all the things they've built to. I can't think of anything like recently on a pay-per-view that they would have changed.
No. So there's 3 key points to this. Number 1, they said they walked out during the broadcast, which kind of contradicts what the other reports had been saying. Secondly, it's the whole they had 8 hours to rehearse and construct their match, which a lot of people are saying is absolute bollocks.
It's still real to me as well, damn it. Exposing the business.
Yeah, it's a scripted live TV show. And they were uncomfortable in the ring with 2 of their opponents, even though they'd had matches with those individuals in the past with no consequence. So that has to be Becky and Asuka. Because Sasha
why not Doudrop and
because they're more new to the roster. Like if you think back to how many matches Sasha Banks has had with Becky and Asuka, it's probably way more than she's had with Doudrop. I don't think she even had a match with Doudrop on TV.
No, I can't think of any. They've been on opposite brands.
Yeah, or maybe they've just done something on house shows or something like that. But yeah, I mean the way that a lot of Sean wrote about it as well, that WWE were specifically trying to say that it's Becky and Asuka without saying it's Becky and Asuka. And yeah, then there's that last bit, which is that we regret we were unable to deliver as advertised tonight's main event, which is why I think they purposefully announced at the start of the show, this is the match, and now we're changing it. So they can have that line in there. WrestleVote tweeted out, sources note the WWE statement regarding the Sasha and Naomi walkout is just the baseline of the details. The tension leading up to this walkout was palpable all day, with both superstars upset at something that transpired. More details will come out in due time.
Ooh.
So here's what Sean had to say in his updated report that he had. Do you want to add anything to that before we
No.
The working plan for the match was for Naomi to pin Nikki ASH, not Naomi pinning Sasha Banks, as has been speculated. Those close to the situation said that Naomi and Sasha Banks didn't claim they didn't want to work with Becky Lynch or Asuka, though that was implied in WWE's statement, and those were the two women they were referencing. Instead, we're told that Sasha Banks and Naomi were angling to work with Nikki and Doudrop at the pay-per-view. The talent themselves hadn't heard that Sasha and Naomi considered anyone unsafe until the statement was released. WWE talent also got the statement in their internal talent relations app. In regards to the pitch, the Nikki and Doudrop versus Sasha Banks and Naomi pay-per-view match was turned down. There was also a pitch to have them interfere in the Naomi versus Bianca Belair match on pay-per-view. That was also turned down. We're told that Sasha Banks and Naomi's issues largely were concerns about the direction of their tag team and the division as a whole.
Yeah, which is, I can see that. Sasha Banks has always considered the women's tag team titles at a higher level definitely a higher level than what the company perceives them as.
Yes. And this is also, Sean also appeared on, they have a Patreon version of the Fight for Repose show, which is with Alex Palowski and Kate. And Sean went on there afterwards to kind of like, not give any new information, but there's a couple of interesting choice quotes in there. One of which is that they, Sasha Banks and Naomi, did not want the tag titles to be used as fodder for singles feuds, which I think is absolutely fair enough. Yeah. And he also points out as well, he texted one of his sources and said, like, what do you make of them saying that they thought these people were unsafe? And the person who responded back to them said, like, well, they never used the word unsafe. Who said the word unsafe? And Sean was like, but that's implied in WWE's statement of things. And they were like, they never said unsafe. WWE never used the word unsafe. You're using that word.
Summarily.
You say it's certainly implied. Sorry, someone is trying to call me on my phone, so I'm just going to have to turn my phone off now. Which I should have done beforehand anyway. I do apologize for that. So that's a lot of the information that we've got here. But the last thing is from Dave, but that is, I think, feels like more speculation on his part than anything else. So any other thoughts about the second half of this report? Cool. So the last thing on this is that Dave Meltzer noted on Wrestling Observer Radio that Roman Reigns could play a big role in the future of Banks and Naomi, as he has so much backstage influence right now. With Naomi being married to Jimmy Uso's, Roman's cousin, if Roman supports Naomi's decision, she'll likely be fine, but if he doesn't, she could be in serious trouble. This is just speculation right now, but Roman does definitely have a huge influence. It's not the first time we've seen a report on his opinion matters and lots of big decision making. That's from WrestleTalk.com, so that's not what Dave was saying.
That's a really interesting take. That was because everything else is not repeating the same thing, but it's dealing with the same points, and it's stuff that has happened. That speculation was the first thing of how will this now go?
Yeah.
And the idea that Roman could play a part in this by either squashing it, at least for half of that team. You know, if Naomi's safe because of her affiliation with the Bloodline backstage, does that mean Banks is safe? I don't think so. But if you look at like how the Usos were treated with their far more significant run-ins with the law, they got off a lot easier than this backstage disagreement.
Yes.
And you've got to think that's because of how important they are to the Bloodline storyline.
So we now have Banks and Naomi have walked out of WWE Raw, and they left, and they completely changed their plans, and they're releasing a statement about it, this, that, and the other. Come back to 3 years ago, Sasha Banks did ask for her release from WWE, and it was turned down.
After throwing a tantrum, was the report.
Reportedly so. Apparently a lot of people have then since shot down that report, one of them being Sasha Banks.
But it was again after...
women's tag title stuff, ironically.
Yeah, being dissatisfied with her creative direction following WrestleMania.
And this is Sasha Banks. Like, people often say, like, "Oh, why don't more talent stand up, against bad creative?" And then we get them doing this here, and now we're getting people like, "Well, they should have just been professional about it. So they should have just gone there and done their jobs." And like the whole WWE statement of like, Corey Graves calling them unprofessional on air reeks of they were difficult to work with, which we've heard about Keith Lee and Bray Wyatt when he left. And there's a few other people like they're just difficult to work with.
Like WWEism.
So simple. They just want the best for their fans. And I suppose the point I was going to get to is that what do you think is the next phase of this? If you were to go into speculation station, is it Banks and Naomi asking for releases? Because if they do, they ain't getting them. Like it is They wouldn't release Roderick Strong from his contract. Like, they're not going to release Sasha Banks from hers.
How long is left on their contracts?
I have absolutely no idea.
Because Meltzer did keep saying that this could be a contract issue.
As if they are up, like, soon.
I don't know. Yeah.
Do you think that's one of those things where Dave knows things, but isn't saying them?
The stuff I've listened to, a lot of the journalists know a version of what's happened, but they cannot say it yet because they just need to corroborate it a bit more.
Yeah.
Or, me speculating, Banks and Naomi directly are saying, don't say this just yet. I need to see how things fall. And they're actually the main sources for most of these people.
Yeah, when Sean was talking about his sources, he said to Denise, you know who my sources are, so you know that this is a very airtight thing. And Denise was like, oh, I know exactly who it is you're talking to. So I know that they know.
Yeah. So it's Vince. Yeah. Is it Vince?
Could be.
Where it goes from now, I think by the end of today, we get the classic screenshot of a note or like a weird Instagram picture statement.
Yep.
Click through the things. God damn it. I have to transcribe this. I can't just copy the text. I think we get joint simultaneous ones from Banks and Naomi.
I think they have to at this point.
Yeah, the way this is unfolded, I don't think... what they should do is not say anything to anyone. Like, that's the smart play, and try and do stuff behind the scenes. What I think will happen, just observing wrestlers for 5-6 years now, they will take that as an attack on their position, which it is, and they will lash out in reply. And I think it will be just as sort of emotional as WWE's initial statement.
Yeah, I'd be very curious to see what the next phase of this is. But I think if it is a case of the Astral release, I don't think they're getting it whatsoever. And whether, cooler heads prevail. I suppose my last question to ask you, before we get into Ultrachats on this, do you think they were right in what they did?
I have a tremendous amount of respect for anyone who stands up to WWE. When Enzo walked out... Did Enzo walk out?
Pac walked out.
Pac walked out. I think Enzo... But Enzo was difficult, and he kept on saying, no, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
And I was like, yes.
Difficult to work with.
Yeah, but Bray Wyatt, like all these people, CM Punk when he walked out, I was like, fair dues, because this is... You should protect your character over everything. That's what WWE keeps saying they want.
Yeah.
They want people to grab those brass rings, which is an extension of protecting your character, caring about your storylines. Why wouldn't you want your independent contractors to do that? So I think, I think it's a cool move what they did. At the same time, it is unprofessional. Those things aren't mutually exclusive. It is both those things at the same time. Part of the coolness is precisely because it is unprofessional.
Exactly.
But they did let down their co-workers, and they caused plans to change later in that day.
Yeah. I am siding more with Banks and Naomi on this scenario
I am too,
than I am anyone else on this. I agree with you as well, because I do think that those two things are not mutually exclusive. You can also be a badass and unprofessional. And I think that they are both of those things. And I think if you are trying to take one side or the other, you are not seeing the wood for the trees. I think that the reason why I side so much more with Banks and Naomi than I do anything else on this is the pettiness of it all. I think WWE... WWE essentially bury their talent in their own press release where they're like, we've got unsafe workers that our talent don't want to work with. And like the whole, we're sorry we couldn't give you the advertised main event. Like it makes me hate them. So they've made themselves so villainous while trying to look like the baby faces. They're Lacey Evans.
Oh my God.
They're Lacey Evans here.
Well, you can see how WWE keeps booking babyfaces wrong. If this is how they think the actual company should behave publicly.
Yeah,
because you hear all these reports all the time about the backstage nonsense that goes on in WWE, and you don't know everything 100%, but you can assume, based on the sheer amount of rumors and stuff, that it's not a nice place to work. But when the company actually performed, like behaves like that explicitly in front of everyone, it is a bit of a shock.
Yeah. To be so front-facing about it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm watching, Succession. I watched an episode last night where people are putting out press statements against each other, and it's horrible. And it feels like, and Logan Roy is a very Vince McMahon style, rageful, emotional character. You can see like the fingerprints of a lash out, screw these people.
That's it, yeah.
Motive.
We said about the Corey Graves moment. It's so a Vince-fed line. Like, I know a lot of people went after Corey about saying that.
He's
but
just doing his job.
He is a guy who is just doing his job, and Vince McMahon yelling down their headset, say these words.
Yeah.
And say it exactly these words. It's what Vince does.
Well, let's get into our Ultrachats. Charles Berg says, by the way, if you want to have your opinion on this, WrestleTalk.com/support. Send in an Ultra Chat. We'll read out every single one of them over $5. Charles Berg. My mother, who has done PR for large companies for over 30 years, read WWE's statement. According to her, this was full-on damage control, disparaging Sasha and Naomi while attempting to remove any fault on their part. I believe this is a shoot.
That's the other thing we actually haven't discussed yet.
Is it a work?
Is it a work?
Well, if this wasn't... Banks and Naomi did not come out publicly, though. There was actually nothing for WWE to directly address. WWE brought up the situation and then addressed it. So this wasn't damage control. There are so many things that happen behind the scenes that WWE do not then bring up and then shoot down.
But they could. Like, this is almost them getting ahead of the story as well. Bear in mind, Mike Johnson, like, his story broke before Raw went on air, I believe. So maybe this is WWE's way to try and, like, get ahead of it, get their version of events out. Because if they'd have just gone ahead with, it's Asuka and Becky Lynch in the main event for the #1 contendership, and then Mike Johnson's story comes out, Shawn's story comes out, WWE then don't have anything to counteract against that.
But this happens all the time.
They do that all the time.
This happens all the time, and they never address speculation and rumors. That's the line we're always given when we reach out for comment.
So, do you think it's a work?
No.
No.
Like, to what end?
That's exactly it. You've always got to ask yourself, if you think this is a work, to what end is this? Also, part of that work is telling your audience this is a scripted TV show where they are characters doing performances.
Vince Russo was trying to get a job back again. Greg Murphy. I couldn't believe on Twitter and Reddit today people were defending Sasha and Naomi. Terrible business from the wrestlers and not the way to make change. Even Austin said his biggest regret was walking out when not happy with creative. Yep, it is like I said, it is unprofessional. You walked out on your job, and Austin in time has said it's his biggest regret. And maybe they'll come to regret it, or maybe they'll be like, "We are so glad we got out of that toxic relationship."
Or you could end up in a Brody Lee situation where you just kept at home for months on end, frozen in your contract. It's the current speculation that is going around about Ali. The reason why, why did Ali come back? Why does he come back for all of this stuff? And some people are like, that's because if he didn't, his contract might have been frozen.
Riot DR.
Hey, yo.
No new opinions here, but I will 9 out of 10 times support the independent contractor in these situations. Whatever happens, these ladies will be more than fine. My issue is apparently commentary was talking S-word. I learned to ignore them. Yeah. Washes over me anyway. Riot DR again. Fix your attitude. Translation, you're making millions of dollars. We aren't burying your characters. You're holding championships we don't really care about. So do what you told. Forget about enjoyment or artistic integrity. Go be a chess piece. I don't know if they're making millions of dollars. Women's contracts are famously
much lower.
Quite lower.
Unless you're Ronda.
Just a couple, but even that was like, when the numbers came out, it was like 1.5 million or something.
Yeah, it was. She was like,
and Dolph Ziggler's on like 2.
Yeah, she was the highest paid, but it was not. The highest. Like, she was the highest paid of the women, but not in terms of like what the men are making.
I do agree though, right, DR. But at the same time, if you sign a contract with WWE, you gotta. It's a bit naive to not think you will be a chess piece.
Absolutely, yeah. And right. I mean, you are right though. Like, fix your attitude is do what you're told.
Riot DR again. Should the worst case scenario happen, what happens to these women's tag titles? Do they try again with another jigsaw puzzle of a tag team, or do they die? I love and appreciate you guys. Jam that jam. Jam thy jam. By the way, Raw was okay. I bow to the great Asuka.
I mean, it's really a way to just get rid of the belts.
Nikki ASH and Doudrop, the last kickers, I think they could be a good tag team.
But against who? Like, Banks and Naomi.
Brooke and Carmella.
Well, no,
they can team.
Because that is what Banks and Naomi's
Natalia
like.
and
her new friend of the week. That's what Banks and Naomi reportedly. That's what they're frustrated. What Sean said in his updated report is just that it's less about being in the main event. It's less about winning. It's less about going onto the pay-per-view to win. It's about like, well, okay, well, what's step 3 of this? What's step 4? What do these tag belts actually mean? What are we doing here? What are our directions? What are our feuds? Who are we doing stories with? Who are we doing like developing our characters with? Because at the moment, that's right, they are just chess pieces, and not even, they're all pawns. No one's an important chess piece apart from Roman and maybe Randy Orton. No one else is an important chess piece.
Austin Nangano. Hey guys, respect both Sasha and Naomi. If this is a work, then damn it's a fun one. If not, good for both of them. Would AEW be a landing spot or more indie scene? Also, do they stay together as a team?
I think if you walk out as a team, like, and a smart promoter would bring them in together. They don't have to keep them as a team, but certainly bring them in together.
But I don't think of Banks and Naomi as this. I don't think of them as a unit still.
They've only been together since February.
They're independent wrestlers from each other.
No, I agree with you. Which is why I say
for the first book. Yeah. Tails P. Are we gonna get a Triple H I am the effing game interview from Naomi or Sasha? I love the main, but where was Doudrop and Nikki? I'm not excited for this cough match. King of what's that?
Okay. I'm not excited for this KOF match of Team Club, KO, Terry, and Janet versus Team Judgment, Rugal, Kay, and Vice. Team Club, I think, would be Bullet Club versus Team Judgment Day.
Judgment Day. But what's KOF? Is this a fighter game reference?
Well, it's King of Fighters.
King of Fighters.
Is that the reference here? Because they are.
Are they characters in it?
Well, Terry is. Oh, right. It's all characters from King of Fighters. I've put it all together in my head. These are all King of Fighters characters. That is Terry Boga. Okay. Yeah, I guess it sort of works in a way.
Double L, Liam Leonard. I love tag team wrestling, so seeing Sasha and Naomi take the title seriously, I respect her and understand why they walked out. The division deserves better, and WWE's panic statement was kind of sad. In addition, Finn Balor finally won a match. Hooray!
Well, good for him.
Yeah. The bad one, Jan Beard. I think this is all legit with Banks and Naomi, and I would say for the people who think this is all a work, they are probably the same people who thought Mox leaving WWE or Cody leaving AEW or even the Jeff Hardy situation were all works.
So Louis then.
I'm not really hearing anyone here say it's a work. I think we're all of the opinion that it's
when this episode first went up, there were a lot of people early doors who came and say, guys, this is a work. You're all being worked.
AR forever. No, please no. Memberg for 9 months. Might be my imagination. Do you think it going the same way as once happened with R-Truth and Miz during Triple H being in charge? Winky face emoji.
I don't want to think of any. I mean, look, I know that R-Truth and Miz were once a tag team. The Awful Truth or the Awesome Truth? Yeah. Maybe the Awful Truth is what Cena called them. But I would like to forget as much as possible about that terrible time.
Chance 25. WWE calling anyone unprofessional is extremely hypocritical. So personally, whether what Sasha and Naomi did was professional or not is irrelevant. Whether what they did was right, 100% in my opinion. NS Ogre, Memberg for 10 months. Sean Ross Sapp reported that WWE never advertised the match until after he reported about it, so another WWE lie.
Yeah, so that comes down to, so on Fightful Select, they always have the rundown of Raw that goes out before the show goes live. So yes, he had reported this was the main event. Yeah, WWE never advertised ahead of time there was going to be a 6-pack challenge main event.
Brian Wilkowski. Out of WWE pushed rumour-based lies about talent. Sasha laying on the floor of the locker room and screaming is one of the funniest. That said, Sasha and Naomi have been arbitrarily declared jobber to the stars, despite being top level over. Vince has brain rot. Would describe them as top level over. Sasha Banks and Naomi in a tag team?
As a tag team, no. They are just... It's nice to see you actually getting to do something. You did get to do something at WrestleMania, but I wouldn't say as a tag team they are over as an act. I think individually, absolutely. But I think they are more than the sum of their parts. Like, I think they are better separate.
JS Wooten. Sasha was given another your tag team partner and you fall out storyline, and I can't blame either for being pissed about it. WWE statement though, if this is what anyone wants in their life, then go with God, because that company.
There we go.
Dad and Ollie's hair for life.
I would say as well with JS Wooten's point there, according to Sean's second report, the match was going to be structured that Sasha and Naomi were never going to fight, and Nikki and Doudrop were never going to fight. Like, so the tag teams were going to stay together.
Nates, I'd argue it's way more unprofessional to put out that statement and summarily have Corey make that statement on air. No statements for Jeff Hardy or Tony Storm situations. Think it would have been more unprofessional for them to have gone and half-assed their match?
I mean, it would have been... Yeah, if they'd have gone out.
That would have been so funny.
Not... Like,
oh, I wish that would have happened
like
more.
Austin Aries at Bound for Glory.
But then that is directly making your fellow wrestlers look bad.
Yeah.
So that would be more unprofessional.
Fascinating for us to watch and talk about. Like, if you'd imagine watching Raw and that happened, you'd be like, oh, what's all this about, though?
They never put a statement out for Charlotte and Becky Lynch's title exchange.
Charlotte and Nia having their little scrap on Raw.
That's far more unprofessional. You're
Absolutely
totally right. And unsafe. The Jedi Muffin. I'm just a force-using muffin whose opinion is only spoke of through funding. But I would love to see Sasha work a program with Thunder Rosa or even Ty Conti. I believe they would have great chemistry. Also, Naomi should be in the Bloodline stuff. #Grand Jam.
Well, they, I think they did an interview recently where they said we would love to have Naomi in the Bloodline, which could be a good way for her to stick around and keep her job. Yeah, I mean, Sasha in AEW was something that people fancy booked when she first asked for her release a couple of years ago. And we even said, I remember us saying at the time that when AEW's women's division was being completely buried by us, and I would argue themselves, and, you know, not being featured on TV, we said, if they'd have got Sasha Banks, there'd be so much more women's wrestling on Dynamite on the pay-per-views.
Well, because she threatened to walk out every week. And finally, for now, for your comments, legit underboss. Well, I understand people are upset, but I feel bad for Corey Graves getting dragged on Twitter for being the messenger shield for Vince. Is not cool.
I agree with that.
Oh, look at that. People, this situation is so weird. We're defending and genuinely feeling bad for Corey Graves.
I will dunk on Corey Graves till the cows come home, because it's a fun thing to do. He seems like an utter bellet. However, he was not wrong in this scenario here. He is just a man who was doing his job.
Well, Surfshark.
Indeed, yes. Get yourself an excellent VPN service by clicking our link in the video description down below and get yourself not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, not 7, not 8, but 83% off and 3 months free. Access all the streaming services from around the world.
Do you know what I'm doing right now?
What's that?
I'm using Surfshark VPN.
You are?
My phone automatically, because this is a great feature of Surfshark, automatically switches the VPN on as soon as I leave my home Wi-Fi, because I trust my home Wi-Fi. I don't trust you people's public Wi-Fis, not even this building's Wi-Fi.
I wouldn't either.
It hooks onto the VPN and it protects and encrypts my browsing.
Wouldn't trust this. King J's in this building. Trust that, man. It's a fabulous service. Get yourself BBC iPlayer, all for the proper WWE network that every other great country gets, but you Americans don't.
Right, so this episode of Raw, we're going to go through it at quite a clipped pace.
Gonna have to.
Because we covered a story for 45 minutes. Unification matches on Friday? What?
Yeah, you didn't see SmackDown?
No.
Yeah, they announced on SmackDown that they're doing the title unification match.
Jesus Christ.
An amazing segment as well, actually, because what happened is that Randy Orton and Riddle came out and said, we want a tag unification match. Sami Zayn came out and said, I'm here speaking on behalf of the Bloodline. And Riddle and Randy Orton goaded him into setting up a match between Riddle and Sami to be like, and if we win, we get the title unification match. And Sami said, yeah, that's a great idea, but we'll do it next week. And then Adam Pearce came out and said, no, we're going to do the match right now. And then on commentary after the match came out, it was like, by the way, the whole tag unification thing isn't actually on the line in this match. And then later on in the show, Usage came out and said, It's a tag unification match next week on SmackDown.
They've got a pay-per-view.
They just had a pay-per-view.
So the first match here was Bobby Lashley versus Amos. They did a big presentation, which I actually thought they did a decent job of. Cage is set up already. You've got the announcers team at ringside with Jimmy Smits being back in MMA mode right next to the octagon. It was nice. I didn't like this match. I've seen people say, oh, it's Amos's best performance.
That's exactly what I've written here. Easily, this is Amos's best match.
But it was... too much had to work around Amos here.
Oh, yeah.
You had the cage, you had MVP interfering outside, you even had Cedric Alexander climb into the cage
to take
some bumps. Finish was, Amos goes to throw Bobby out hit him into the wall of the cage. The wall comes off, Bobby lands on the wall, he's like centimeters away from the ground and winning, and time just stands still.
Didn't it? Okay, so I've seen people be like, oh, it was actually a really clever finish and everything. I thought this was, and I've written here, an all-time terrible finish. Because what happened was, the cage comes down, and Amos stands there, and then he stands there, and then he stands there.
And all the while, Bobby Lash, he lies there.
Yeah, and then...
he lies there.
And then Amos... stands there.
Lies there.
Stands there.
Lies there.
Stands there.
And then Bobby goes, oh.
And Amos stands there.
Oh, boy. I could win here. And he just walks off the thing.
Accidentally.
And the referee goes, well, he stands there. This has never happened before. And I'm like, dude, I've seen this. It's a cool finish. But it has happened. It does have precedent. This is your job, referee. And the referee goes over, explains that, well, Lashley touched the ground first. He wins. And everyone's like, no. Amos is like, no.
No, I can't believe this happened.
And Bobby's like backing up the ramp going, ha, ha, ha.
Yes, I won.
I said, this is the thing. The point of this match was for Bobby not to win necessarily by any means. It was for him to get his physical punishing revenge on Amos. Running away because of a fluke escape does not satisfy the end of that story.
Thankfully, it's not the end of the story because they announced for next week.
Oh, they already
there's a
announced
segment
it?
they announced it on the show. There's a segment next week between Lashley and Amos, likely building to a Hell in a Cell match between the two of them.
Oh my God.
Because what makes this match better? But 4 times in the space of a couple of months.
We then got Theory come out for a match against Mustafa Ali, but not really. Theory said, expect the unexpected. That's what Vince McMahon tells him. I said, well, he got a dose of his own frickin' medicine before this episode with Banks and Naomi. So it wasn't actually against Theory. Miz is the special guest referee, and Veer Mahan's the opponent. I thought Veer and Ali had a really decent match.
I thought this was a really good reveal.
Yeah.
Great heel reveal.
Mm-hmm.
And then, probably Veer Mahan's best match.
Like, I thought he's got something. He's got that sort of early monster foreign heel character energy that Rusev and Umaga had. It really snaps the way he moves. He beats Ali, but Ali is somewhat protected because Theory Miz got involved. They continue to beat him down, but the Mysterios make their return and beat up Veer.
Yeah, Mysterions made their rundown, and they stood tall at the end of this.
Cool. I thought this was a nice interweaving of 2 different angles.
This is a thumbs up from me.
Then we got Lynch talking to Pierce about the unprofessional nature, summarily.
Good job they filmed these in advance of the show and then opened the show by announcing that a match was taking place that was never going to take place.
That could have been live.
No, they did say they pre-taped them.
Oh dear. Riddle versus Jimmy Uso was next. No Randy Orton. I think he was described as being away on family
business,
things.
Which is we haven't got him for that many dates. So this is one of the dates where he gets to stay at home and not come to work.
And usually I'm like, well, yeah, that's okay. But this one, he really needed to be there for this one because, of course, the Usos were going to dick all over the rules of this match.
It's not like it hindered Riddle in any way. He still won.
Jay kept on interfering. And then in the finish, one of the more obvious assisted pins you can ever do.
Jay was practically in the ring.
He was in the ring.
Holding Riddle down with Jay. And the ref's like, hold on. What are you doing here? And Jay's like, oh, not me. I didn't do anything.
And off that distraction, Riddle got the inside cradle and won.
Well, next we got a really interesting character moment here because Liv Morgan's being interviewed. This is shown from like last week's episode after Liv Morgan got beaten up by Rhea Ripley in Judgment Day. And Finn and AJ walk up. Not Bullet Club walk up. And they're like, oi, Liv, we'd love to have
Liv.
We would love to be, we think we could be a very good team together. We could take on Judgment Day together. And Liv Morgan looks at these two lads and she thinks back to the Riot Squad and how the Riot Squad were disbanded and two of her friends were no longer in the company anymore.
This is nice what you're doing.
And then she thinks about the last tag team she was partner with Rhea Ripley and Rhea Ripley turning on her. And she looks at the camera like, can I trust another team again? And I wrote in my notes here, this could be an interesting character direction. And in the very next segment, she just came out with Finn Balor and AJ Styles and was like, I love them.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a bit of a missed opportunity.
I'd say.
The last line she had backstage was after the offer, I don't know, I'll think about it. And I was like, okay, so what they're going to do, Bullet Club will have the match against Los Lotharios, Rhea Ripley will come down, and Liv will make the save. Awesome. No.
She makes her entrance first.
Yeah, that like,
I thought she was having a match.
Even have it, or be on commentary or something, but no, she just comes out first. It wasn't even Balor, AJ, and then revealing Liv. This failed at like quite a fundamental level.
But I cannot believe she's stealing Julia Hart's gimmick as well, just standing there at ringside for a tag team.
Outrageous.
Yeah, this was. I mean, it was cool that Bullet Club beat Los Lotharios.
I thought this was a good match.
Really good match. I mean, there's 4 excellent workers in there. Los Lotharios, apparently now on Raw. Last time I saw them, they were on SmackDown fighting Ricochet for the IC title.
They had a Raw name bar and everything. They weren't like SmackDown's Los Lotharios.
I also very much enjoyed their kiss cam thing.
Love it.
Because they found the worst actor possible. Because this woman comes up and she gets the kiss and she's like, oh wow, I got a kiss. It was horrendously bad.
It's what it should be. It's a heel thing. And the image they got for the snapshot, she is like half blinking. Brilliant. I think, I said in my review, Angel Garza has so much charisma. Humberto Carrillo looks charismatic. He's so good. I thought this match was really well worked, but it was ultimately to give the Bullet Boys a win.
Yeah.
And they all too sweeted at the end.
Afterwards. Lovely stuff.
Nice building of them and Judgment Day to eventually collide.
Who also got a promo.
Alpha Academy are revealing the DNA results backstage with Kevin Owens, but Otis had contaminated them with barbecue sauce.
You can see Kevin Owens being like, barbecue sauce? And then the pieces fall into place and the cogs were, and he's like, Otis, you were eating barbecue and catering. And Owens like, no, it was probably that other guy over there.
Yeah. They are like Kevin Owens is just doing somehow the best work of his WWE career. And Alpha Academy are very good as well. So very funny. KO was wearing a Sami Zayn Forever t-shirt.
Yeah.
Love that. Alexa Bliss has new music. I couldn't tell you what it is.
Yeah, this is a new theme song, I believe. So it's, you know how WWE really think out their returns? And you can tell how well thought out they are when they change the theme music 2 weeks later or even a week later. And it's because they haven't really thought out the presentation at all. Good example is here. And hey, she got to have her rematch from last week against Sonya Deville, a match that Alexa Bliss comfortably won in a squash match last week. So for this week, Sonya Deville dominated and should have won the match, but the referee was incompetent. And Alexa Bliss eked out a victory. This was bad.
This is Cody versus Seth. Sonya was surprised in the first week. It's Cody versus Seth in a much quicker way.
In just 3 weeks.
Yeah, and 3 minutes. You know how they kept Alexa Bliss off TV because creative had nothing for her? I don't buy that anymore because they still don't have anything for her and she's here.
Yeah, she is now a wheel in someone else's storyline. So she's Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus in the AEW Tag Team division.
Sonya got a visible pin. Referee was sort of fixing the exposed turnbuckle.
That she did expose.
And she lost, and then she slapped the referee afterwards. So, still going with that thing. She's not a WWE official anymore. What will happen?
I bet she's pretty all right. She dominated this match.
Cody promo. We got a countdown to Cody for the 2 hours so far. They really are like positioning him as the main star on Raw.
They may as well call
good.
They may as well call it the Hello MJF countdown. Look how we'll book you if you come here.
And Cody put over Seth's career, his career, second chances.
Look,
it's not a Cody promo. You don't choke up a little bit, is it?
Dusty, like, we've all had a bit of fun here, right? We're all having a bit of fun. Good Cody promo. Always a good Cody promo.
Always a great good Cody promo.
Always a good Cody promo. So that Seth's not here. Seth then was on the big screen, so deedly-dee. They piped in crowd noises. It was quite, it was a segment. And like, people have been saying ever since Cody's got in, like, wow, WWE doing such a great job of presenting him and booking him and stuff like that. I was like, what's he done? He's been there for 3 months and has done this every week where he's come out, cut borderline the same promo, and he's had the same matches and the same feud for 3 pay-per-views straight.
This one will be Hell in a Cell.
I've seen him win twice.
But not in a cage. And this is sort of Seth's home ground. He's had a lot of Hell in a Cells.
A lot of bad Hell in a Cells as well.
Awful Hell in a Cells. The one with Edge was very good.
The one with Moxley wasn't bad either.
Yeah. So he's had one...
one and a half. Good.
He's had such a bad Hell in a Cell match. We think all of his Hell in a Cell matches are bad.
It was the worst one ever.
It ruined the company. And arguably the wrestling industry for 3 months.
Oh, yeah, it did. It made Seth turn heel.
That was the week AEW launched, and all we cared about was The Fiend winning the title. Seth annoys me. I don't like the laugh.
Well, I suppose you're not supposed to. The problem is that all the other heels do it as well, so it doesn't feel like it's unique to Seth anymore.
And it really, really irked me. That's, as you said, Cody said, Seth isn't here this week. And then he did appear backstage in what I'm assuming was pre-tape, because Cody didn't ever interact with it.
Yeah.
I don't know why that annoyed me so much. Asuka promo backstage on Becky. Chad Gable took on Ezekiel. No one cared in terms of the crowd, but goddamn, Kevin Owens on commentary was so funny.
There's a moment in this match where Jimmy Smits accidentally called Ezekiel Elias, and Owens leapt upon that saying, see, even you think he is. You're a bad commentator. You said last week that Cody hasn't wrestled for 6 years.
He also, like, every time someone said Ezekiel, Owens would go, Elias. He even made the production team bring up the graphic again and to say, no, it's Elias. He was so funny.
So they came back from a commercial break and they put the graphic up in the corner to say, you are currently watching Chad Gable versus Ezekiel. And I was like, well, that's wrong. Production, bring that back up.
Yeah.
It's still wrong.
Otis took out Ezekiel back outside, but ultimately Zeke got inside cradle to beat Gable.
Yeah.
Truth and Tamina served Akira Tozawa his divorce papers. Then Dana... What happened? Did Truth start to chase Dana Brooke for the title?
He said that he wanted his title back. And then I think... Because I think Dana thought, I can trust Truth here, because Truth is, he helped me get married, he helped me escape from that marriage, he then served the divorce papers. He is someone that I can trust. And the first chance he got was to say, I'm going to win my title back. And she's like, turns out I can't trust you. And that's why I think that's why she walked away.
But did she run away? Wouldn't you run away at that point?
She ran away at the ending of the segment.
No, I think she walked away.
Well, from the ending of the segment.
Why would she run away from Carmella?
She didn't run away from Carmella. She bumped into Carmella, and then they did some terrible acting.
Terrible.
It was really bad. And then someone started to chase her, and she ran away. And I think it might have been Truth, in fact. Maybe it was Truth.
Right.
And then
So why didn't Truth chase her from the start?
Oh, because so you can have the Carmella interaction,
This
I guess.
is like a logic puzzle. It's like
and not a good one.
If Dana Brooke is walking at a pace towards Carmella, and
but
R-Truth...
But he's got X amount of distance to cover, and a referee is slowing him down. Yeah, so Carmella is now in the 24/7 title picture.
Well, is she? Or is she in the Dana Brooke picture?
You think they're going to get married?
No. Carmella... I mean, bloody hell, like, probably. And there'll be a threesome storyline on the horniest reality show on YouTube. But Carmella never went for the title. Truth, so again, remember, Truth and Carmella used to be a sort of act together.
I had forgotten that.
Over the 24/7 title, no less.
Was it?
Yeah, like early days.
Was it really?
He would put her on his back and they'd run away.
Oh my God, yes! I do remember that. I thought it was just a mixed match challenge thing.
Yeah, it might be. So Carmella was like, I'll help you get the title if you help me beat up Brooke.
Why does she want to beat up Brooke so bad?
Because they just had that.
Oh,
Dana Brooke said something about Corey Graves.
Okay, cool.
Lacey Evans came out, cut a promo where she put over the military and mums.
Right, so she has been telling very real life stories about how she had a very difficult childhood and how she overcame that.
Yeah.
And how she is now a WWE superstar. The commentators talk about how inspirational she is at this. When she's just chatting, it is quite inspirational. Less so when the commentators then say, like, that's inspirational, isn't it, kids? And then on SmackDown a couple of weeks ago, they had whoever the backstage interviewer is say, Lacey Evans has now asked for everyone to stand up and applaud the military. And like, because it was like Lacey Evans has asked you, it sounded like a real, and applaud what she is doing, how brave she is. It sounded like a real heel move. And all of the reports are she is either a heel now or she's turning heel. And then they introduce her as like mother, daughter, former US Marine, Lacey Evans. And she comes out and she's like, I think the military is great, and I think mothers are great, and I think WWE is great. You should all stand up. I was waiting for her to say, and they can all kiss my ass, and like throw down a cap or something, or a medal or whatnot. She's a heel, but is cutting babyface promos.
Well, no, she's just currently, if you weren't aware of the backstage reports, she is a really one-dimensional babyface.
But she is cutting promos like her delivery is that of a heel.
I just think that's her not cutting good promos.
Is that what it is?
Yes.
Because it sounded like it was gearing up to be the start of a heel promo.
I think you're bringing that baggage in.
Am I?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But a lot of people have said that's a terrible idea. You build up this really real thing. And, that's definitely the right answer. You should keep her as a babyface. However, it will be so funny.
She then turned heel. Because we talked about this briefly before we started recording this, before we went live on air, which is that it's not that she's cutting a heel promo or she's cutting a babyface promo like a heel. It's that WWE don't know how to present babyfaces. So they think they're doing a great job of presenting a babyface. What they're actually doing is making her more heelish than she was before when she just had a hat.
I forgot about Hat Lacey Evans.
Yeah, just walked out. Yeah. Catwalking Lacey Evans.
After that, we got Riddle cutting a promo in what I think was the Sugar Hut in Essex. It's very smoky, a couple of lights here and there.
Yeah.
It's very fun. And then the main event, which was kind of already covered, Asuka versus Becky Lynch. Didn't go that long, but they worked really well together. And the finish was so good. After like a month, it feels, of crappy Raw main event finishes. Generally, very enjoyable episode, bad main event finish. This was so-so episode, excellent main event finish. Belair's on commentary. Becky throws Asuka into her. Belair gets on the apron like, how dare you? Referee's distracted. Becky goes to get Asuka's umbrella. I'm like, okay, she's going to win it here. Asuka, perfectly timed, green misted her in the face.
You can tell the pandemic's over.
Kick to the head, pinned her. Asuka wins.
Loved that finish.
Yeah.
So good. It was awesome because my WWE brain was like, and here's where the DQ comes.
Yeah.
And this is how we get a triple threat match at Hell in a Cell.
Yep.
And no, Asuka out of nowhere misted her in the face and got the pin. Crucially as well, covering up her face so the referee couldn't see that she'd been misted in the eyes when she was pinning her. Superb finish. And a very, very good match as well. I did feel very bad for Nikki and Doudrop, though, because
They could have lost that,
it could have been a fatal four-way.
which they could have got pinned in.
Could have got pinned in, but
Yeah.
at least they would have got to have a wrestle.
Hey, maybe they walked out as well. We don't know.
We don't know.
Where was Randy Orton? Walked out. Where's Roman?
Where is Roman? He's the champion of both brands.
I think he's contractually walked out.
Yeah.
He's got it in his contract now. He doesn't have to do anything.
So what did you score this?
I can't remember. I think it was either in the low 60s or high 50s.
Yeah, I guess 2, 3 out of... I don't know. I didn't do a
2,
poll
3.
for this because I think everyone was so focused on the Sasha and Naomi stuff. Like, I don't think anyone really had any opinions on Raw as a whole. But yeah, 2, 3 out of 5. It was a perfectly fine episode of Raw, I guess.
Yeah. If this was 3 months ago, I'd be raving about this episode. But I think the last month
Well,
has
you've said
been
it's been
better.
the best episode of Raw you've ever seen in your life.
Much better than AEW.
Sean has tweeted as well. This was about 15, 20 minutes ago. Already working on another Sasha and Naomi WWE update. He's going to run it today.
Interesting. Before we get on with your remaining Ultrachats, let's say thank you to our wonderful Pledgehammers on Patreon. Hit that music.
I have.
The Pim Particle, Terry Hankamer.
1 second.
The Austin Nangano Escape.
Oh, that's good.
That is good.
Get Sean Bretherick rolled.
Always leave the crowd wanting Brian Moore.
Pick him up, Loot Sponge.
Justin, the Human Godzilla Woostrack.
All-Star Chuck Turner.
Marcus, he's got so Campbell.
Chris Hellfire Brimstone.
Infinite Crisis, Chris Jenkins.
Adam Bowser Bowers.
And the incredible Tarzo.
Thank you so much for your support on patreon.com/WrestleTalk. This week, hopefully this week, we're going to be recording our review of Judgment Day 2002, which will be available exclusively for Patreon backers.
I watched it yesterday.
Yeah? What did you make of it?
Without
giving away the...
It'll be an interesting one to talk about now because it's near Steve Austin walking out.
Yeah.
And he does feel pretty checked out creative-wise.
Yeah.
Because that Brock Lesnar walkout wasn't just that. It was, I guess, a
culmination
year
of things.
building up of what am I doing?
2001 hadn't quite worked out the way that they'd intended because the heel turn was ill thought out and they clearly didn't have a direction for it. Then the invasion stuff happened and then he just turned babyface again.
Well, yeah, please go over and support us on Patreon and you get access to loads of exclusive content like that.
And also, I don't want to make you rush through these Ultra Chats, but I've just had word from Andy that Laurie's music video Punishment is available for us to watch.
Finally!
Yeah, not available for you to watch at home. It's available for us to watch in the office.
Excellent. Oh, well, we'll probably put that out this week sometime then on partsFUNknown. Right, WrestleTalk.com/support. Get your chats in there. Nate S., can WWE not release them and then prevent Sasha from doing any of her acting gigs until her contract runs out? So a sort of 90-day non-compete clause.
Yeah, but even then, it's only...
Not release them, I see.
So I'm going to keep them... Well, I mean, she gets acting gigs. I suppose she would say, you can't do those.
Yeah, WWE, would probably have final say, ridiculously, if she could do them.
She's in the Disney wheelhouse now. Like, she's in... Usually when you get that first step into the Disney playbook, you can get a bunch of acting gigs in other Disney projects after that.
Wrestling Wriggle. Sasha and Naomi need to come out and say WWE is hard to work with. I've been in a job where if you address issues with management, you were just complaining. Professional or not, they were probably frustrated by this point. Good times in WWE. I see a pattern. Riot DR. Summarily. Adverb. In a summary manner, without the customary formalities. Vince McMahon being involved with that term is hilarious. Side note, Amos throwing Lashley through the cage doesn't make him look dumb. Standing for 30 seconds still while Bob wins.
He stood there.
Yeah, it wasn't that he was so monstrously strong. It was the standing.
Yeah. I mean...
He could have made it out. He could have stepped out himself and won.
There was a door. to exit the cage. That was actually safer to walk through.
Damian Drake, I tuned in late to Raw, so I thought Corey burying Sasha and Naomi was a story until I got notification of PWI's story. WTF is going on. This was weird enough for me to ultra chat for the first time. Y'all do great work.
Thank you.
Jam that jam. Thank you, Damian. Lucky 2001. Could this end up being a spark that leads more wrestlers to leave or try to form a union?
I think I've given up on that train.
You know, if you're just getting into all of this fun stuff, it feels like, yeah, the wrestlers are going to unionize. This is going to be a mass uprising. But what you've got to remember is we've lived through that whole cycle multiple times a year for 15 years.
And who was the last person that was being the bastion of unionizing? Cody Rhodes.
Well, really, it was Zelina Vega.
Sorry, you're right. You're right. Before, it was Cody Rhodes, then Zelina, and both of them went back to WWE.
The best way for Sasha and Naomi to get back in WWE's good books is to threaten to unionize, because they want to crush that so bad they will swallow any PR nonsense.
That right guy, it says, the third hour of Raw was never exclusively dedicated to the cruiserweights. No such situation ever existed. Perhaps you dreamt it.
No, it turned purple and everything.
Yeah, they did the ropes. We were there for it when they did the ropes. Jack Lloyd. Why is every pay-per-view WrestleMania rematch, I mean Backlash, oh whatever, how many more matches will there be at Hell in a Cell? 4 weeks of build for matches I've already seen 7 times before is pointless. Cancel the network so I can watch Double or Nothing instead.
Happens every year with WWE. This is their holding pattern. They just do the same thing over and over again until we get a SummerSlam direction.
HMoose805, hey guys, is it just me? Or who didn't get a confirmation email when signing up for the UK pay-per-view being on sale? Also, would you guys rather see a pay-per-view based around British guys in prominent positions on a big 4-level show? Love the streams. Why does Ollie hate AEW? I didn't sign up for the UK thing, so I don't know about that. But I think the tickets that went on sale today weren't general release tickets. They were just the package tickets. So it was like getting a hotel, meet and greets and things like that. So those are like the $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 WrestleMania-style ticket packages.
With the British one, always love to see British wrestlers do better. I don't really know what you mean there, though. A pay-per-view based around British guys in prominent positions.
I think that's would you rather see a pay-per-view based around British guys, or would you rather see them appear on WrestleMania, SummerSlam?
Oh, a Big Four. Yeah, definitely. Because a British-themed pay-per-view will not be treated as anything other than the Women's Evolution pay-per-view.
I think they've done 2 of them, in fact. But yeah, like it is... WWE, unfortunately, I think to answer your question, H-Moose, is that WWE have taken all of the British independent talent that I used to love and then put them in a promotion that no one cares about, and now I've forgotten who they all are.
WrestleTalk.com writer Sanchez came in, and we found out he is the viewer.
Yeah, he is. He said it was, have you seen this match? I had no idea that match was happening.
Moustache Mountain having a really good breakup storyline right now. I was like, what?
Well, I just interviewed them a couple of weeks ago. The kid 6467 said, hey, from Norfolk, Virginia. Was dreading my first 3-hour Raw last night, but it was really enjoyable. The Veer thing is not working. I marked TF out of the Mysterion's return. Gable is so good. Really enjoyable show. Seth Cody dark match was great. I love Asuka. Also, he was there live.
But really good crowd. I thought you were a better crowd than that Raw deserved, mostly.
Alex Jordan, I found a solution, scratch the unification match and let Jay and Jimmy win the United States Championship and IC title to solve their 2-belt issue, then everyone's happy.
Everyone is definitely happy in that situation.
Nate S., wasn't there a screwed up finish until Roman and Brock, or was it Braun going through the cage and landing outside?
Yes.
And they wanted to use that again? What are the rules?
That was the Saudi show. I think it was Roman and Brock.
Legit Underboss, nice to see WWE letting Luke Booker, Cody, and Seth Duman call out promo to build to the rivalry ending at a pay-per-view inside Hell in a Cell. No Legit Underboss, because I'd have booked them in 2 other Hell in a Cell matches to build to a 3rd one. Ben Zid says, hi lads, first time super chat here, but I've watched you guys since 2018. Keep up the great work. P.S. There's a new 2K22 update. Glad to see that the MyGM series is now even further outdated. Could this lead to a 2nd series? Hashtag DAD. Hashtag WrestleTalk for life.
We were talking about that earlier today. How do we do a 2nd series?
Because we do want to do one. It's just whether or not it works out for us to be able to do a second series.
Another chat has come in just above. Legit underboss. I just want to say that I feel uncomfortable with the thought how 2 black women are being yelled at by a probably white man to shut up and wrestle and fix your attitude. I don't think it's a racial issue. I just think it's a WWE crapping on their wrestlers issue.
It is more them crapping on talent that are difficult to work with. Freddie Mayhem said, support WrestleTalk or you're ugly. LIW for life.
It's our new bumper.
Supreme says, I drive for work 10 hours a day and I fill that time listening to old podcast episodes from you guys start to finish. I'm currently on Super Showdown 2018. Thank you guys for all your hard work.
Oh. Well, tell us any weird thoughts or observations we make if you're going through.
Was that... That wasn't DX, was it? DX and Brothers of Destruction.
It might be because
the 2017
following year would have been when Wyatt won the belt.
Yeah, I think you're right. Super Showdown 2018. Good Lord, what happened on that one? Oh, Super Showdown 20. It was the Australian show.
Ah, g'day, mate.
With Undertaker Trips.
And that really bonds a Buddy Murphy match. Didn't the Iconics face Ronda Rousey?
Oh, no, they defeated Asuka and Naomi.
Ah.
John Cena and Bobby Lashley defeated Elias and Kevin Owens as a tag team.
Well, they were that must have been around the time they got that mega heat.
We just moved into this office.
Yeah.
This was the first thing that you watched. Didn't you and Andy watch this show together or something?
I think it might have been me and... Oh, yeah. I can't remember. It was either that or the October one.
Yeah, no.
That was September.
It was Ronda and the Bella Twins versus the Riot Squad.
Kushrinada has been a member for 4 months. Great point there on Rhodes and Vega. Change is needed, but nobody seems to be stronger than the power of money. Does that say more about the wrestler? No, I think it says more about the human condition. And finally, Charles Berg. Let's play Name That Wrestler. I give a bad description of a wrestler and you name them. You ready? Don't look.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wait, no, they haven't given the answer.
Okay.
1. This wrestler hates the taste of water. 2. This wrestler hates the taste of apples, so not Carlito. 3. This wrestler wants to give you a taste. 4. The wrestler loves the taste of feet.
I mean, I hate riddles, and this feels like one.
Hates the taste of water.
And Carlito did hate the taste of apples. He was always spitting them out.
Surprised every time. Will this be the one I like?
No, it's not. I spit in the face. Hates the taste of water. I'll be honest with you, Charles. I hate this sort of game. So I will instead read out 10 Ruzzers' last chat here that said, I side with Sasha and Naomi. Lads, bravo in Eurovision, and I hope it means great things for the UK going forwards.
Oh, yeah.
Love you guys.
Should have won. But I get why. But we should have won.
Oh, people are saying it's probably Triple H.
He spits the water
in
his entrance. What about all the other bits?
This wrestler wants to give you a taste. Hang on. Apparently, Blackamora got it correct. So he said it's either Triple H, Carlito, Matt Lee, or Snitsky.
Oh, come on. He's not doing a Snitsky one.
Some people are saying it's Snitsky.
Loves the taste of feet.
Is it 4 different wrestlers, though? I think we've got it wrong. I think it's not the same one. It's 4 different wrestlers. So this wrestler hates the taste of water is Triple H. This wrestler hates the taste of apples is Carlito. This wrestler wants to give you a taste is apparently the lad from AEW. And 4 is Snitsky.
Cool.
Yeah, Charles has had some all-time great Ultrachats in on this show.
He's trying out a new thing, isn't he?
That might be one of your worst. It might be one of the worst you've ever done.
We've had one last one come in, final one for now. Grace Lester, could the statement be WWE gearing up for axing them from the company, like as a justification for releasing someone with the star power of Sasha Banks and the longevity of Naomi? I don't think anything was that thought out.
I don't think it does.
They've not done that for anybody else. They freaking released Bray Wyatt with not a hint, apart from not using them on TV. I think this was in the heat of the moment, emotional move.
I think it was as well.
Right, thank you very much for all of you watching today. Please, if you haven't already, subscribe, watch another video on this channel, and come back tomorrow where we have
Sat Iniangi and SP3 reviewing NXT, and then on Thursday it'll be myself and Oliver Davis reviewing AEW Dynamite with yet another stack show, 2 Jokers to be revealed on Dynamite this week. And then on Friday for the Team Danuke show, no, it won't be Denise Salcedo, but it will be myself and Angela from Hobby Night back on the channel again, which we're very, very excited about. And also, while you are clicking links, if I can make a suggestion, go and watch SmackDown, the SmackDown and Rampage review with Pete and Angela. An excellent review it was as well. So go and watch that. And while you're in the process of clicking links, Surfshark VPN. Get yourself not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, not 7, not 8, but 83% off and 3 months free. It is our VPN of choice.
Jam That Jam.
Jam that jam.